Hi guys, welcome back to the Spurred On podcast. It's Tuesday, we've got a game on Thursday, so it'll be a match preview of the West Ham game tomorrow. So today I'm going to do some Tottenham transfer rumours. But before I get started with that, once again, thank you so much for your support. If you are watching on YouTube, thanks so much for watching. I would love it if you could go over to your favourite podcast platform, be that Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Give me a follow or a subscribe, that'd be really helpful, and vice versa. If you're listening on the podcast while you're out running or driving or wherever you listen to your podcast, please do come over to YouTube, drop me a subscribe and leave a comment for me as well. I like to answer all my comments and get talking with all of you guys. Thanks so much again, really appreciate your support. But on to Tottenham transfer rumours. It seems to me things are starting to heat up when it comes to transfer rumours. We do, of course, have January a mere weeks away, and that is when things will start to really happen. Big Ange Postecoglou has already discussed openly how he is keen for us to get our business done early this January. That makes perfect sense, of course, because we have players going to the African Cup of Nations, and Sonny is even going to be going to the Asian Cup in January. We're definitely going to be short in the midfield department, so it makes sense that a lot of the rumours that I am reading about and hearing about are midfielders, starting off with an Ajax Wonderkid called Kenneth Taylor. He's just 21 years old. He can play in the 6 or the 8, so he can be the defensive midfielder or more of a kind of box-to-box midfielder. But we are not the only club interested in him. Aston Villa, Newcastle, Brighton, Man City and Manchester United all rumoured to be linked with him too, according to the BBC. He has 4 caps for Holland, Kenneth Taylor, and he has scored 13 goals in 86 games for Ajax. From midfield, that is not bad, especially at just the age of 21. What I like about him is he makes really good late runs into the box, akin to a kind of left-footed Frank Lampard. He's also tall, so he's not going to get kind of beaten off the ball muscular-wise that easily. Dare I say it, a little unlike Brian Hill, who I think is really struggling in terms of his size. Kenneth Taylor can also hit it with his right foot, so that's good. It means he's not going to be kind of transparent for defenders to just show him onto his right foot all the time. And he's very brave in tight areas. That is something that I see in common with all of the players that Tottenham are currently being linked with in terms of midfield. And that makes sense because obviously the way that Big Ange is playing, the style, the philosophy is all about being brave on the ball. Can they take it? Can they look up? Are they willing to maybe even beat a player to then find the player in space and get us on the front foot? Kenneth Taylor can definitely do that. I've seen so many decent examples of him taking it with 3 players around him and wiggling away from them and then getting a good pass off. What I will say, even though he's from the Ajax Academy, we've had a lot of success with players who've come from the Ajax Academy, even if not directly when we're talking about Toby Alderweireld coming via other clubs, Jan Vertonghen, of course, and Rafa van der Vaart was in the Ajax Academy. So they have got great pedigree, but what I would say, for every Van der Vaart, Van der Ven or Virgil van Dijk that comes from Holland, there is also a Matthias Kesman or a Donny van der Beek. So it can be a dangerous country to be buying players from. Obviously, our most recent example with Mickey van der Ven has worked out really well, and on that basis, I have full kind of positivity and belief in our recruitment structure and the way that we have been scouting players and then passing them on to Big Ange Postecoglou to make the final decision. So for me, if they like Kenneth Taylor and I like the look of him, then he is definitely someone that I'd be interested in coming to the club. As I said, with the African Nations Cup coming up, we're going to need reinforcements in central midfield. On transfermarket.com, they've got him as valued at about £10 million. That to me would mean we'd be looking to pay at least £20 million realistically to get him out of his club in January. One thing I will say is Ajax are not having a great season at all, so that might make it easier in terms of, are they looking to rebuild? Are they going to kind of look for some money to come in, as Dutch clubs usually are, to be honest, to then try and buy younger players, which they often do from South America. So for me, I would say let's give this a kind of 6.5, 7 out of 10. It's definitely the kind of signing that I could see us making. He's young, he's got potential, which also fits in with our recruitment policy at the moment. But, like I said, always a bit of a risk buying from Holland. Let me know what you think about him. What have you seen him been playing? Let me know in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube, and even in the comments on Apple Podcasts if that's where you're listening. Our next rumour, which is being talked about quite a lot at the moment, is England international Kalvin Phillips, the ex-Leeds United midfielder who obviously got his big move to Manchester City and has basically just warmed the bench ever since he's been there. I have to say, I am a huge fan of Kalvin Phillips. He's 28 years old now, though, so a little bit higher in age range than I think Spurs are tending to look for. He's a defensive midfielder, really, tends to play in the six, but I always loved watching him for England when he had that great partnership with Declan Rice, and they used to kind of swap over every so often. He's quite fluid, and that's something that also suits Ange Postecoglou. He's talked quite a lot about how he doesn't want people and players to just be able to play one position. He wants them to be able to swap in and swap out and be fluid on the pitch, and that's something that certainly Kalvin Phillips can do. He's played 65 Premier League games for Leeds and Man City. To me, that is not enough top-level elite football for him to really have kind of garnered the transfer fee that he went to Man City for, and especially as he hasn't really played a lot since he's been at Manchester City. I wouldn't really be wanting to buy him for any more than kind of £30 million, £35 million at an absolute push. He's played 31 times for England, which is very impressive, but the fact that he's played nearly half as many games for England as he has in the elite top level of Premier League football just says it all to me. There's also an injury issue there. He's quite injury prone, and that is not something that I'm desperate to bring into the club at the moment, because obviously we are suffering with injuries, we've been suffering with suspensions, and our squad is decimated. And as I've mentioned twice already on this podcast, we're going to be losing players in January as it is to that African Cup of Nations in midfield. So we can't be risking spending a lot of money on a 28-year-old who is then going to get injured potentially. However, they are the negatives. What I would say is, if we got him in and we got him playing regularly, he is definitely a great player and he plays really well in big games. I guess my only other question is, if all of our midfielders are fit, if Bentancur's fit, if Bissouma's fit, if all of those players are fit, and Maddison as well, obviously, would he be anywhere near that first team, that first 11? Realistically, does he want to make his next move from Man City, where he's barely played any games, to a team where once all the players are fit, he might not play any games either, and he'd just be kind of more of a cameo man off the bench? So for me, I'm going to put this one at a 5 out of 10. I think it's too much outlay for what the potential benefits are. But let me know in the comments below. Would you want Kalvin Phillips at Spurs, and how much would you be willing to pay? The final transfer rumour in terms of potential incomings, Johan Bakayoko. He's at PSV in Holland, so another Dutch purchase, but he's actually Belgian. He's played 8 caps for Belgium. He's a winger. He's only 20 years old, and he's scored 1 goal for Belgium, and he scored 8 in 39 for PSV in the Eredivisie. What I would say about this guy, Johan Bakayoko, real talent, potential, strong, quick, amazing left foot, loves to play inverted off the right-hand side, and he just adores dribbling at players and beating a man. He's exactly the kind of player I could see us bringing in if Ange Postecoglou wants in some games to have just a full-out pace attack from either side of Heung-min Son playing up front. If he wants to play, maybe if Maddison's injured, he wants Kulusevski to play in the 10 to replace him, then he's got this kid Bakayoko who can play really quick on the wide and go inside or outside, and the same with Brennan Johnson on the left. He's a very exciting talent. He's got a great shot with that left foot, incredibly strong, can be unselfish in front of goal as well, which isn't something you see from a lot of young players who are kind of raw and have express pace and a great shot. They tend to always want to score goals themselves. This player does love scoring goals and loves cutting in from the right and putting it in the top corner with his left foot, but also I've seen some great examples of where he's got a possibility to have a shot in front of goal and he's seen that there's a better option in front of him. That to me is something that shows he's got football brain about him, and at that age, only 20, that is really exciting. The question is he someone who's going to come? It looks to me a little bit like he's one of those talents from Dutch football that the bigger clubs are going to look to try and get in early. So if we're going to get him, I think we've got to go in there now and say to PSV, here's an offer you can't refuse. We love this player. Get him through the door in January. It would be so exciting if we did. I really like the look of him. I'm going to give this one, in terms of what I want, I'd love this to happen. Give this an 8 out of 10. Let me know in the comments below what you think. In terms of what he's worth, Dutch football, maybe we could get him for 30 million. I should say, Stevie Bergwijn was just as exciting, and he was never given the chance. I have to say, if Stevie Bergwijn was at Spurs now, under Big Ange, I think he would be so dangerous and such a good player. And he would have a kind of an arc that rivals Gio Lo Celso's resurgence at the moment. So maybe Johan Bakayoko could come in and do even better than Stevie Bergwijn did, as he wasn't given the chance. The final thing I want to talk about, Newcastle, obviously looking for a goalkeeper short term because Nick Pope has injured his shoulder and is going to be out for 4 months. I haven't seen any rumours about it, but I wouldn't be surprised if very soon rumours of Hugo Lloris going there till the end of the season started coming up. At the moment, they're being linked with David De Gea, but for me, even though he's available on a free, 350 grand a week, that might really affect their financial fair play situation. Whereas Lloris would be available, I think, a lot cheaper, and I think we'd be happy to give him away and get him off our wage book. So it would not surprise me a bit if that was something that I saw coming up over the next few weeks before January. Would you want Hugo Lloris to go to Newcastle? How would you feel about it? Anyway, guys, that's been my Tottenham transfer rumours. Thanks again. Please do drop it a like and subscribe to the channel on YouTube and vice versa. If you're watching on YouTube, please do go over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Give us a follow or a subscribe. Thank you so much for your support. And most importantly, come on, you Spurs.